Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Dustin Meyer and today we are going to, I've been wanting to do one of these for a while. We're going to do a HDR tutorial and I mean for the most part the processes are pretty quick, so I figured what I'd do in this video today is we'll start in Lightroom and then we'll also give it a shot in Photoshop and just kind of compare the two, I guess, because I know that you can do it in both, but you know, I've been using it in Lightroom for a long time, not really for any specific preference, but I was testing it out in Photoshop and it looks like there's a few more options and the results too. So anyways, let's just jump right into it. So okay, so what I've got here are some pictures from this morning, and it's, you know, just standard sunrise. There was some fog or mist or whatever you want to call it on the water, and I just did a bracketing of, I believe it's one stop for each. So I guess this one's normal, then +1, +2, +3, and then -1, -2, -3. So that just gives us a total, you know, of 7, obviously. So now this was taken handheld. I believe it was just in program mode because it the fog on the water goes really quickly when the sun starts to come up. So I just didn't have time to carry out my tripod. Plus, you know, for excuse me, for Texas it was cold, so I didn't have my gloves on or anything. So I didn't feel like spending too much time out there. So anyways, we're gonna jump right into it. Okay, so we're just gonna do select all, right click, go down to PhotoMerge to HDR, and I'm gonna leave it on auto align because again, this was taken handheld, and most of the time in my experience, at least in Lightroom, it does a really decent job. I'm also just gonna leave it on auto tone because if I turn it off, it's just gonna make it a little bit darker. We can always go back and move the individual sliders. So, you know, at least this way I have a good preview of what to expect. As you can see over here under deghost amount, I've got it set to none because, you know, there wasn't really a whole lot going on. Plus, I think when I was testing this out earlier, almost everything on the screen was like, had that red kind of mask look to it. So I just kind of, you know, I mean, from what I can tell, it doesn't really look like a lot of ghosting needs to be done. So I'm just going to go ahead and click merge, and it does take a little while, but it's really not, you know, it's really not that long. I'm going to go ahead and just give that a flag as well. So again, I can just filter it down, and I'm going to give it a 1 star on top of that, just, you know, for fun. So now I've done you know, HDR in Lightroom before, and that's really kind of what I'm most familiar with. I know that Photoshop has had this feature for a long time. Once I got started using Lightroom in the past, it just, to me, I was able to, you know, if I could do it in Lightroom, then it was all part of the same workflow. So, okay, now the rest of this really is just a little bit of technical, but then for the most part, it's just a bit more creative. Part of this is kind of what you can do, but also what I like to do. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. Now let's see here. Up here, we got a little bird, so we're just going to take that out just to remove any distractions. And all right, turn that off. Now you may see over here like these little blue specks and stuff. That's just showing me like where it's absolute black. And if you don't know how to do that, you just click this little guy here on the shadows end of the histogram. So if you click it off, then it goes away. If you click it back on, then it comes back. But I mean, there's not really a whole lot. There's a little bit over here too. So now, obviously, the one thing that really sticks out in my mind, and this usually doesn't happen because usually I'm not shooting like fog or something along those lines. As you can see here, we've got some really weird kind of layering. I don't know what you would call that. I don't think it's deghosting. Maybe it was. Maybe I should have done it. But you know, this kind of stuff here usually happens when you merge photos together. I mean, you can see a little bit of chromatic aberration, or just, you know, I don't know, what do you call that? Anyways, so I mean, we could go in here and, you know, just kind of, you know, try to move it out with the clone tool, but I feel like, I don't know. I just, I don't feel like this is really what we want to do. Whoa. Sometimes it drives me nuts how it just kind of grabs it from a super random area. So the other thing that I would probably do is, in fact, you know, instead of trying to do this in here, I feel like Photoshop does a much better job when it comes to actually, you know, cloning or content aware fill, that kind of stuff. So let's just, I'm going to undo it. And then let's see, move that out of the way. Okay, turn that off. All right, so now creative wise, this, like I said, we will go into Photoshop and then just kind of see if we can take that out and see how it does. If you guys have any experience with, you know, seeing if this can be taken away with the PhotoMerge thing, then, you know, let me know, because I'd love to find out. But for the sake of, you know, keeping this short, we're just going to keep it, you know, like it is right now. So now the first thing I do is, you know, I check the shadows. I just kind of look at it and think, okay, which parts are super dark? And despite the fact that these over here are absolute black, I'm actually going to go to the blacks slider and bring it up a little bit so that they're gone. And then also with the shadows, I just want to see how it looks if I bring those up. Some of you guys may prefer to have your HDR look as realistic as possible. Others may prefer to have it, you know, a little bit more punchy, more colorful, you know, whatever. But I usually try to start with something that's a bit, you know, more flat, and then I just kind of check the clarity and go up with it just a little bit to make sure that it adds the contrast in a way, but without, you know, blocking up the shadows. Then vibrance, usually I will kick that up a little bit. And then let's see. I mean, so far it's looking pretty good. I think maybe we could tweak the colors a little bit. So I'm adding a little bit of magenta and then a little bit of yellow in the temperature. And let's see what else. I'm not going to boost the contrast because that'll just make the blacks come, you know, spotted up again. However, what I might do is, let's just see how it looks. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll grab the clarity and make sure that's off. Okay. And then I'll go over the water just, you know, to help kind of bring out those ripples. Plus, with this being a picture of fog on the water, if you can see down here, it really started to stand out. So, okay, so we got that. And then, you know, with it being the sunrise, again, this is just, you know, my creative preference. What I might do is, well, before we even do that, before I turn that off, I might take the exposure and just bring it down just a tad, and then maybe go a little blue with it. Nah, we'll just leave that. So besides, it makes sense that the watercolor, you know, should match the sky color of the sky because it's a reflection. But notice that we've got a lot, kind of a darker area here at the bottom because of refraction on the water, but we don't have it up here. And the landscape here is pretty level, so it is pretty equal. So let's see. Usually I'll go to the gradient tool, and then I'll go to exposure, and yeah, about half looks good. And something around there, I guess. I always try to watch out for anything that's not the sky, like the tops of the trees here, to make sure that I'm not making them too dark and making it obvious that I used a gradient. And then what I'll do is, again, this is just, you know, for creative reasons, is I'll go here and just kind of mess around with the color of the sky. I'm just adding a little bit of magenta, maybe a little bit of warmth, because I don't know, for some reason I kind of like it when the sky has sort of like a purple look to it. So, so yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. And then I can just grab this and move it around as needed. Now, sometimes with sunsets, having more of a purple haze is considered, better because the sun has kind of lit up all the dirt and dust and haze from, people driving around all day. It's like up in the atmosphere, so the sun will reflect on that, and that's what creates, the color of sunsets. Whereas sunrises are, they have more kind of pure blue tones and stuff like that because there's not as much ozone or carbon dioxide up in the air. So if you guys want to see what pollution's really doing to our air, you can see it. Okay, so moving on, I am going to take this into Lightroom, and we're going to take a look. I mean, for the most part, I think that looks good. I just want to take this into Photoshop and see, how it does if we go in there and try to remove some of those little light splotches. I don't know what you want to call them. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to take these branches out. I'm just using the select lasso or the lasso tool, and then I'm not sure exactly what the Windows version would be. I'm on a Mac, but if you click Shift Delete, it automatically brings up the fill menu, and so I just do content aware, do 100% opacity, click OK, and just see what it does, and boom, it's gone. I know you can use the patch tool also, but I just do this because I feel like it's much faster. Okay, so as we were saying, we're going to go in here and see how this looks. Well, it looks a little bit better. I mean, it definitely looks a bit more believable than what we were getting in Lightroom. That's for sure. All right, so, and I don't try to do, huge bits. Well, let's see. I'm really just kind of going for the hard edges here where there's like an obvious amount of contrast between like these lighter parts of the edges. There we go, a little bit better. I'm not even doing like the entire shape. I'm just doing the edges here. Maybe it'll blend it in better. All right, and almost done, I think. I mean, I feel like the obvious, content aware fill can almost pass off as just, different part of the fog. Let's see here. All right, just about got it. I do feel like, I don't know, I was testing it out in Photoshop earlier, and whether it was, some sort of built-in masking or whatever, it did a much better job. Let's see, how does everything look so far? Okay, zoom out. That looks a lot better in my opinion. In fact, the one thing I'm going to leave it with is notice how we lost this lamppost here. We lost the base of it. So I'm just going to, actually I should just keep that. And right now I'm just being kind of sloppy, but actually I'm going to try the patch tool. Nope, wrong one. Wrong way, sorry. See how that does. It's all right. I guess I could just, well, I'm not going to get too picky with it because, again, this is just hopefully a quick tutorial. So, okay, I know earlier I mentioned that we were going to try and do HDR in Photoshop instead of Lightroom, but this video is going on long enough. I'm going to try and shorten it down anyways. So that's what I got in Lightroom. Now, of course, you can do a whole lot more adjustments in Lightroom as well to your images, but I'd love to see what you guys come up with. I know everybody's got a different preference when it comes to what kind of HDR stuff they like to shoot, and also just share the different techniques or tips maybe that you guys have come up with. Plus, I mean, if you've got questions, as always, put them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. And anybody else in the audience that has an answer, please, just feel free to jump right in. Anyways, so that's what I got for now. We're going to do in the next episode, we're going to go into Photoshop, because I noticed there are some, there is a different look to it when you do photo merging HDR in Photoshop versus Lightroom. So anyways, if you learned something today, please hit that like button. It definitely helps just kind of grow the channel, as well as if you're new here, please join our community. We've got some great people here that love to contribute. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when new episodes come out, just ring the bell next to the subscribe button. But other than that, let me know what you guys think. And thanks for watching. My name's Dustin Meyer, and I'll see you in the next video.